Hey friends, it's Alan Bevere here, pastor, professor, and self-appointed chair of podcast theology and culture at Faith Seeking Understanding University, where all seekers and those who are lovers of truth are welcome for free. Glad you're here. So I'm going to be starting a new videocast podcast program called Pithy Ponderments. And I'm going to try and do this 3 times a week, something like that. 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the most of just reflecting on a current event and offering some of my thoughts. And so this is the first one. So today's Pithy Ponderment is about Dr. Seuss. There was a huge flap, as you know, when Dr. Seuss Enterprises made the decision not to publish 6 of their books anymore, 6 of over 60 titles that Dr. Seuss had written over the years, because those books contained racial caricatures that perhaps 50 years ago was acceptable to portray certain ethnic minorities in that way, unfortunately. But it's no longer true today. For several reasons. One is, I think we've just become more sensitive to the problem of stereotyping, and that stereotyping is really not innocent. I mean, we may receive it in that way for those of us who are not stereotyped, but it isn't innocent. In fact, what stereotyping does is that it just continues to confirm ingrained and unacknowledged prejudices that we have. Secondly, these stereotypes are becoming unacceptable today because our demographics in the United States is changing. Minority would typically have been minority groups, African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans. Those groups are growing, and they've got more of a voice now. They're able to participate in the public arena with some power and authority that they didn't have years ago. And so it's because of that changing face of America that these things are just something that we're no longer able to do. They do, by 2050, if not sooner, by 2050, there'll be no discernible ethnic majority in the United States. I, for one, find that to be exciting, to continue to grow and have such diversity, because I think a society is vital when it's diverse and when it can embrace the diversity and not wall itself off in tribes. Anyway, so I want to talk. So that's why Dr. Seuss Enterprises made this decision, and they made the decision after consulting with teachers and educators. It was a long process in deciding to make this decision. Now, one of the things we've heard, of course, is that this cancel culture, it's stepping on the First Amendment. Well, none of this is true. First of all, I don't like the phrase cancel culture. It's ridiculous. You certainly could say Liz Cheney was canceled this week by those who complain the most about cancel culture when her leadership position was taken away, not for being not conservative enough, because she. Anyone who knows the Cheney family knows they're conservative creds, but she's being replaced, by the way, by a moderate Republican. And so we know this is not about conservative values. Liz Cheney has conservative values. No one who knows Liz Cheney knows her conservative values are they're unimpeachable. Anyway, so cancel culture, I guess, goes more than one way. But I don't like the phrase cancel culture. I don't like the sloganeering of things that matter, because once you sloganeer it, then it's subject to all kinds of abuse. But what I want to do with the Dr. Seuss thing is to say that the idea that this is cancel culture, the idea that this is an abridgment of the First Amendment is not true. And in fact, the decision by Dr. Seuss Enterprises no longer publish these 6 books actually is a fine example of the free market and a fine example of freedom of speech. So first, let's talk the First Amendment, and that is, remember that what the First Amendment of the Constitution states is that the government will not restrict free speech. It's the government that will not restrict it. The government cannot say, you cannot say this, you cannot write that, you cannot publish this. It's only the government. The government did not make the decision to discontinue the publication of these 6 Dr. Seuss books. Authors, they own the copyright to their work. Now, I have a copy of one of my books here. For those of you on videocast, you can see it, The Politics of Witness. And you can go to Amazon and pick up any of my books. That's just a little shameless self-promotion there. Check out my author page. What I really want to show you is this page right here, and I'm going to explain it for the podcast folks. If you will look, it says copyright, and it's backward. Sorry about that. Copyright 2011, Alan R. Bevere. I own the copyright to my work. It's mine. So what does that mean? It means that my publisher doesn't own the material. My publisher enters into agreement with me. My publisher freely says, we want to publish this book. They draw up a contract, spills out all the details and stipulations. And then I signed the contract, and they can say this is for 2 years, it's for 5 years, whatever it is. And they promise to publish my book, and I promise to give them the exclusive rights to publish it. Now, when that contract is up, the publisher can make a decision based on the free market. They can say this book's a good seller and we want to publish it again. So they can send me another contract and I can sign it and off we go. Or they can say, this book is not done that well and it's really not worth our time and investment. So we're no longer going to publish it. They're not canceling me. This is not cancel culture. This is a business decision. On the other hand, they could say, we want to continue to publish this. So they're going to offer me another contract. I can say, no, you know what? I don't think so. I think I'm going to see if I can find another publisher. Okay, maybe one that will give me higher royalties or something like that. I'm not canceling out my previous publisher. I've made a business decision. I have employed the free market in making my decision. So here's what goes with Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss is obviously dead, been dead for some time. He stipulated that Dr. Seuss Enterprises would have the rights to make decisions about his books after he was gone. Dr. Seuss Enterprises made a business decision that these books do not portray animations, do not portray drawings that are acceptable any longer. And so they made the decision based on their own reasons because they own the copyrights to the books. Government doesn't own it, they own it. And so they made the decision, we're no longer going to publish these 6 books. It was a decision of the free market. By the way, these 6 books, are basically near the bottom of the list as far as popular Dr. Seuss titles. One of these books, up until all this flap and people started buying them, one of those titles had not been purchased in 28 years. So in other words, it went 28 years without anybody buying a copy. Now, if you go to any public library, I will tell you that no public library will keep a book for 28 years that has never been checked out by anybody. Because public libraries, they want people to check out books. And if a book has not been borrowed within a certain period of time, and usually it's years, it's several years. I don't know what the stipulations are. I'm sure each library is different. But the fact of the matter is if this book goes to the library and no one checks it out in 5 years, they probably get rid of it. It's not cancel culture. It's the free market at work. It's a library saying, we want people to use our facilities. And so we're going to stock our library with books that people actually want to read. There's no government involvement here, none at all. The First Amendment has not been breached, not at all. So what we have here is the free market and capitalism at work, as well as freedom of speech. All of it is at work. It's a wonderful thing. So for those of you all up in arms about what's happened with Dr. Seuss, you can still be up in arms about it if you want. You can still say, you know, I don't think it was a good decision. Okay, fair enough. But make sure you get the facts right. This is not about the abridgment of free speech. This is not about socialism. This is not about anything but the good old fashioned free market at work. All right, friends. So that's today's pithy ponderment. Here we are in May of 2021. We'll come back again with another pithy ponderment, something that's on my mind. All right, folks, have a great day. Pithy ponderments notwithstanding. You take care. Have a good one.